On Friday, October 13th, 1307, the wealthiest financial institution in Europe was violently liquidated in a single day. The French crown arrested its leadership, seized its assets, and dismantled a lending network that spanned the continent, all to erase a massive, unpayable sovereign debt. These men functioned as a 12th century multinational investment bank. While their reputation was built on the battlefield, their true power resided in a sophisticated ledger system that effectively managed the liquid capital of the medieval world. To understand how a religious order became a financial superpower, we have to look at the logistics of the Crusades. A European noble traveling to the Holy Land had to fund a small army for years. That meant dragging chests full of heavy physical gold and silver across thousands of miles of hostile territory, making them a prime target for bandits. The Templars solved this problem with a brilliant financial innovation, the letter of credit. Instead of traveling with a caravan of bullion, a knight could deposit his physical assets at a local Templar preceptory, a fortified command center, in London or Paris. In exchange, the Templars issued a notarized, often cryptographically coded document proving the exact value of the deposit. The traveler then carried only this piece of parchment to the Middle East. Upon arriving at a Templar branch in Jerusalem or Acre, he handed over the document and withdrew the exact equivalent value in local currency. By replacing physical bullion with abstract ledgers, the Templars created a system of institutional trust. They absorbed the risk of transport and built a continent-spanning network of liquid capital. To navigate the Catholic Church's strict prohibition on usury, the Templars disguised their loans as property transactions. Instead of lending cash, they purchased a rent charge, the right to collect income from a borrower's land. Legally, this functioned as a real estate purchase, not a loan. They also buried lucrative profit margins inside foreign exchange rates. By lending a noble silver in Paris and requiring repayment in a different currency in Jerusalem, the Templars factored a service fee directly into the exchange rate, safely categorizing the profit as compensation for their labor. When borrowers paid late, the Templars relied on an extrinsic legal title known as lucrum cessans. This allowed the order to charge hefty penalties to compensate themselves for the lost profit opportunities suffered while waiting for their capital to be returned. These meticulous legal fictions allowed the order to provide massive lines of credit to the medieval world, financing the wars and administrations of European kings. One of those kings was Philip IV of France. Philip was trapped in a fiscal crisis, desperately trying to fund expensive, endless wars against England and the wealthy county of Flanders. To pay his armies, Philip routinely resorted to destructive financial maneuvers. He repeatedly debased the French coinage, triggering runaway inflation and riots in Paris. When that failed, he violently expelled the Jewish and Lombard merchant populations, seizing their property and outstanding debts for the crown. By the early 1300s, Philip had run out of minority populations to expel, and his debt to the Knights Templar had reached catastrophic levels. He had borrowed 500,000 livres from the order just to pay for his sister's dowry alone. Philip realized that the simplest way to clear his ledger was to eliminate his creditor. On Friday, October 13, 1307, his agents launched a coordinated strike across France, arresting the Templar Grand Master and hundreds of knights. To justify the asset seizure, Philip's lawyers fabricated charges of heresy and demon worship, extracting confessions through severe torture. For a heavily leveraged sovereign state, physical force proved highly effective. By burning the Templar leadership at the stake, Philip canceled his debts and successfully executed a hostile takeover of the order's French treasury. In the aftermath of the arrests, Pope Clement V officially dissolved the Templars and ordered their remaining paper assets and European estates transferred to a rival military organization, the Order of the Knights Hospitaller. Watching the Templar executions from afar, the Hospitallers learned that accumulating massive capital while existing within the borders of a secular king left you entirely defenseless against state confiscation. To protect their wealth, They needed physical, militarized borders. The Hospitallers retreated to the eastern Mediterranean and conquered Rhodes, establishing a sovereign state. They poured their wealth into the island, building massive, impenetrable stone fortifications designed to keep external powers at bay. For over 2 centuries, Rhodes held firm. But in 1522, an Ottoman army of 100,000 men under Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent arrived. After 6 months of relentless artillery fire and subterranean gunpowder mines detonating beneath the walls, the Hospitaller defenses collapsed, forcing the knights to surrender. The loss of Rhodes demonstrated traditional static fortifications were no longer sufficient against modern imperial armies. To survive, the remaining knights needed a new base, an island so isolated and easily defended that it could serve as an unassailable vault. In 1530, the Holy Roman Emperor granted the Hospitallers the barren rock of Malta. To survive on an island with virtually no natural resources, the knights completely re-engineered their economic survival model, projecting absolute military power from the sea. They funded this new fortress state through a system called responsions. The Hospitallers still owned massive agricultural estates across Europe. Each year, they systematically extracted a third of the surplus revenue from those mainland farms and funneled it directly to Malta. But farming revenue was not enough to maintain a modern navy. The knights turned to the Maltese Corso, a highly regulated system of state-sanctioned privateering. The Holy Order institutionalized naval violence, granting licenses to corsairs to attack and plunder specific targets. This table shows Hospitaller revenue streams, responsions, shipping taxes, and sugar exports. But the true economic engine was the Corso, plundering Ottoman ships and running ransom markets in Malta. By optimizing licensed piracy, they transformed their charity mission into a sovereign pirate state. The Templars operated within the borders of the very men they bankrolled. By building a multinational bank inside the jurisdiction of a desperate king, they left their liquidity exposed to simple, violent seizure. The Hospitallers survived for nearly 7 centuries because they learned to abandon the mainland. By claiming absolute physical sovereignty over an island fortress and diversifying their income into sanctioned maritime violence, they created an economy that no European monarch could easily touch. Looking at the historical architecture of sacred finance, piety served primarily as the marketing division. The true currencies that guaranteed an order's survival were leverage, liquidity, and the willingness to deploy calculated violence.